Hey guys, welcome back. And in this video we have an interesting topic to discuss that has been brought to my attention actually from one of my followers. His name is Noah Sanchez. He sent me this information, so shout out to him. And it is about the future of Nintendo hardware, systems and consoles, what have you, that Nintendo may be developing. Now, before I get into the information, I want to talk a little bit about how Nintendo has operated for so long. Throughout their history, they have developed multiple different consoles, handhelds, what have you, throughout their existence. Ever since the Game Boy, really, they started doing this kind of thing. And most recently, of course, with the Nintendo 3DS and the Wii U, they actually developed those systems simultaneously, of course, with the Wii U coming out about a year later. So while the Nintendo Switch is what has been announced right now from Nintendo, it is definitely not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, it's extremely likely that Nintendo is already working on more hardware for the future, whether it be in the not too distant future or whether it be 5 or 6 years down the line in the future. What Nintendo has always said themselves is that when they finish a project, they automatically start planning and working on the next project. And usually it starts out in prototype form. They get some ideas together, they test them out, and then they form a basic model for what their next system, handheld, console, whatever it will be, and then lock in their plans for that device. We've seen countless pictures of hardware designs and from various different things that never came out from Nintendo. We even had accessories that Nintendo never released, like they had that 3D screen for the Nintendo GameCube that they never put out on the market. And of course they had the infamous vitality sensor that of course never got released either. So Nintendo is a company that likes to put a lot of ideas on the table, and they'd like to test things, they'd like to go through all this process. Sometimes things pan out and they have a good idea and they release it, and a lot of times they leave those things on the drawing board. So getting back to the information at hand, I came across something interesting, like I said, from a job posting by Nintendo, and this is concerning Nintendo technology development. And I'll leave the link in the description for the job, and you can see for yourself everything that I'm reading. It is for a associate software engineer specializing in graphics, okay? And they are for the Nintendo technology development team is what is being offered here. And I'll read what Nintendo technology development is described as a wholly owned subsidiary. Nintendo technology development based in Redmond, Washington creates future hardware and software technology and researches North American based technologies. So that's about the subsidiary, Nintendo technology development. They are specializing in creating future hardware and software. Then it goes on to describe the description of the job duties itself in this posting. It says, the Nintendo Technology Development Graphics team is responsible for blazing the trail for Nintendo graphics. We work closely with our Silicon partners and drive the overall graphics roadmap for Nintendo. We are prototyping a whole host of new ideas, and that's where you come in. We are looking for a highly motivated candidate with experience writing C++ and shader code. Experience with Vulkan and DirectX 12 is a plus. And then it goes on to list a summary of requirements for this job, and some of the requirements are excellent programming skills and knowledge of C, excellent software design, problem solving and debugging skills, OpenGL or DirectX programming is required, and familiarity with existing game engines such as Unreal Engine 4 is a plus. So there you have the description here of this job posting. So the points I wanted to discuss was not necessarily that it's going to use Vulkan or DirectX 12 or C++ shader coding. Not really that part of it, because while these are the most modern APIs, the Nintendo Switch should be able to run those APIs as well. In fact, the Tegra X1 is DirectX 12 compatible, even though Nintendo of course will use their own API since they would have to purchase the license from Microsoft to run DirectX 12 on the Nintendo Switch. And of course we know that Vulkan is open-ended and can run basically on everything, and Nintendo, part of the Kronos Group, was actually part of the development process of Vulkan. So no doubt the Switch should be able to run that as well. So that's all well and good, But since this job posting is basically brand new, you gotta think that Nintendo is out of the prototyping stage by now, right? They're not really gonna be prototyping anything with the Switch because the Switch is about to be mass produced and sold in less than 4 months. You know, we are at the end of November and the Switch is gonna be released probably in mid-March, toward the end of March or something like that. So we got about 4 months or so until the Switch is released. You got to think that they're not hiring somebody just for a couple months to prototype something that they're already finished with. So it definitely appears to be that they are hiring somebody for the future of their hardware development and technology based in graphics, according to this job posting. Because the key points they said about this subsidiary of Nintendo, Nintendo Technology Development, is the fact that they create future hardware and software technology. And they research it based upon North American technologies, which would be DirectX 12, Vulkan, things like that, the modern technologies that are being pioneered right now in North America. And then of course they went on talking about in the job description of what they would be doing would be prototyping new ideas. So if this is a subsidiary specializing and focusing on graphics and they're prototyping new ideas, you got to think that possibly they are prototyping new hardware to test these new ideas with. So my thought on this is that it is really understandable based on Nintendo's history that they would do something like this, because they have been doing this generation after generation. Once they finish a hardware, they start working on a new hardware with new prototypes. So this makes perfect sense for Nintendo to do. Whether or not a new console or a new piece of hardware or an add-on accessory, whatever this is, comes out in the next year, next 5 years, whatever it is, it's nice to know that they are creating new technologies and prototyping them for the future. As we know, Nintendo has gone through a lot of changes over the years, and with the death of Satoru Iwata, things were said, things were planned. We don't know how much of that was changed, we don't know how much of it stayed the same, but we do know that Nintendo likes to create, they like to prototype, they like to test things, they like to release new hardware, they like to release new handhelds, consoles, things like that. So obviously the Nintendo Switch, from what we're seeing so far, basically we haven't heard much of anything from Nintendo besides that 3-minute trailer, and you know, more to come soon in January. But the Nintendo Switch doesn't look like it's going to be the only thing Nintendo is working on for the not too distant future. And of course the reason is because the Switch is basically finished already and it's going to be released. So obviously they're going to be working on something else for the future. So the question is, what will that be? We don't know, right? So we can speculate, we can guess, but I would really like to hear your guys' opinion on what you think this could be. Could it be a future system coming 5 years down the line? Could it be something similar to the PlayStation 4 Pro, where they have a base model and they have a more advanced Pro version of it? Could it be another handheld? Could it be an accessory or an add-on type hardware to the Switch that increases the power? Because this job description, remember, is talking just about graphics and how they are prototyping new ideas. And this is something this Nintendo Technology Development specializes in creating that future hardware that Nintendo will use. You gotta think that Nintendo is planning for the future to use the latest and greatest technologies for their next system, or possibly a variant of their current system. And when you think about the PlayStation 4 console, it has sold about 50 million systems in 3 years. So whatever Sony is doing has been successful with their PlayStation 4 model. So who knows what Nintendo will do with the Switch, but at least in my opinion, more options are always a good thing. As long as it makes sense to Nintendo and to the consumer, obviously, more is better for the consumer to have more choices. But that's just my opinion. If you think otherwise, that's totally fine as well. But don't think that Nintendo isn't looking at what Sony is doing or what Microsoft is doing. Sony is creating a model with PlayStation 4 that they can expand upon it to reach other demographics in their own network of fans. They have a PlayStation 4, and they have the PlayStation 4 Pro, and there is a rumor floating around that Sony could be working on a new handheld as well. Even though they haven't had success with the Vita, who knows what kind of high-powered handheld they will have coming next. Maybe it's some super powerful handheld that can run PlayStation 4 games on the go, who knows, or stream them or something. But Sony definitely has that capability. Of course, it would be very expensive, but they do have the capability of providing multiple form factors of their own PlayStation 4, which are already starting to do right now. So don't think that Nintendo is not looking at that and thinking, what if we do that too? We could actually be making more revenue for our consoles sold as well. Instead of limiting just to one system, they could be making variations similar to what Sony's doing and making more money on those as well. Maybe having a core Switch model, selling that at an extremely competitive price, and then having a Pro version, for example, that they could sell at a higher price, but of course targeting a different demographic. But of course Nintendo will be Nintendo and just do whatever they want. We know that. All I'm saying is that this information that they are working on something focusing on graphics for the future is something that we should all be looking closely at for the next year. We shouldn't just ignore these things because the Switch is coming out in March and Nintendo is still hiring and prototyping devices and hardware from their job descriptions here. So it's definitely exciting to think about the possibilities, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think Nintendo will go the route of Sony and release different variants of the Switch? Do you think they'll just release another console in 5 years like they usually do and just phase out the 3DS and of course the Wii U too? Or what do you think they're going to do? Let me know what you guys think. Of course, everything I'm saying here is just my opinion, but the information is there and it is real. Nintendo is looking to hire someone specializing in graphics and for prototyping new hardware from their Nintendo technology development team. So take that for what it is, guys, but it's something I want to talk about and discuss with you because it is something interesting to me. Hopefully it is to you too. Alright guys, that'll do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, subscribe and comment, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Take care.